Hello and welcome back to another OMNIHEROES video. So today I'm just going to go through the unit Ellie as a Shadow Arc synergy. So far I've done the key units for your Ethereals. I've done the key units, free to play really, units for all of the major synergies. So like I said, Ethereals, Glorians, Doomsdayers, Avengers, Valinators and Mystifiers. I've done the Dawnbringer for Dorabella. I've done the Verdant for Lily and Leah. And then now I'm going to do a Shadow Arc unit of Ellie. Now, with Ellie, she comes relatively free to play, and you may already have a copy of her. If you do, then I would suggest investing in Ellie if you do get any spare copies of her. There are other units to prioritize over Ellie for the Ethereal's synergy, but she does have a couple of different synergies that play well in other teams as well. So the first place I'm going to go to will be her abilities. So her ultimate ability, Ellie and Mr. Rabbit unite to launch one furious attack on all enemies, dealing 375% magic damage. For every debuff or control effect on the targets, the damage coefficient increases to 20% up to 200%. So effectively, the more that you have debuffed the enemy, the stronger her attacks will be. Debuffs include attack reduction, like with Talanas, or Corrode, I believe, also counts as a debuff, so she'll do more damage up to that 200% if the enemies are debuffed, so works well on a Corrode team. The next ability, Awakened Fear. Behind Ellie, Mr. Rabbit bursts forth with dark power and roars terrifyingly at 3 random enemies, dealing up to 135% magic damage. For every debuff or control effect the target on the target, the damage coefficient against them increases by 10% up to 100%. So a very similar effect to the ultimate. It's just cut in half because it's not an ultimate ability, it is a secondary attack. Now the next ability that she has, Revenge, Last Words. Ellie takes revenge against all enemy units, dealing 10% magic damage to each based on the number of debuffs or control effects up to 200%, and every 1% increases in Ellie's crit rate additionally increases her attack by 1%. So this one is not super effective because Ellie needs to die in order for it to kick in, and not something that you want to happen on an Ethereal's team. However, it can cause matches to draw. As far as I'm aware, Ellie can die, dealing the damage to enemies, and if they also die, the match would count as a draw. Now in PvE it is a loss. In PvP it's a grayed out star, so you won't win and you won't lose, and it'll move on to the next match. So useful in that regard. And the last one is Nightmare. So whenever Ellie attacks, every debuff or control effect on the target increases her ignore defense by 5% up to 25%, which is why when you debuff the enemies and you do have Ellie on the squad, she will keep pumping up those numbers and potentially achieve higher damage than Katrina or Eudora at certain points. If Eudora and Ellie are both level in stars, then Eudora is going to do more damage, but potentially Ellie has the capacity to do much more, especially on, like I said, on a Mystifiers team. I'm not too sure why she's not Mystifiers, but probably because she was doing too much damage on the Mystifiers team, so they probably removed her. And the final one, the Oath Force 2, just standard 10% attack, 10% HP, and 10% defense as well. So that's Ellie's abilities. Now with regards to her synergies, she's on the Ethereal team, and I have gone through the Ethereal team previously, but the main units for this team would be Katrina, Dorabella, and Karnak, and Eudora if you do have her, as well as Lysandra, and also Elowin as well. But Elowin is a different unit, and altogether, from what I've heard, not potentially worth it. So the Shadow Arc synergy, so when increases dodge rate of all allies by 15%, when one ally unit dies, there's a 50% chance to increase attack of other allies by 20% for 3 rounds. So useful in sort of a phantom setup where your characters are coming back, useful in an Avengers setup where your characters are coming back to life. So it'll increase the one ally unit, and then there's a 50% chance to increase the attack. Now, if that was a 100% chance, it would be so much stronger. This team would be so much stronger. But because it's only a 50% chance to proc on death, it's effectively it's not a great synergy in my opinion, and the worst of the middle synergies or the faction synergies. The increased dodge rate is fantastic. However, it's only 15%. If this was more like 30% or 50%, it'd push Shadow Arc synergies to the moon. I would suspect. And what I mean by that is they would become a viable team. As it stands at the moment, you do need to rely on other synergies in order to proceed, or in order to make progress with the Shadow Arc synergy. Which brings me on to the Striker synergy. I've gone over this a number of times now. Some of the better units in the game are on the Striker synergy. For example, Atrops, Salim, Nawi, Catherine, Nyx, and Seraphina as well. Those are really the top-notch units, and when you increase their attack, even if you've only got 3 strikers, increasing their attack by 25% every round really does add up. So Ellie can be very effective on a striker's team as well. So that is it for Ellie. Her talents really just the increased crit rate by 30% and control resistance rate by 30%. Also working alongside the passive, so the increase it by 1% in attack rate, and then again 1% in her attack for her crit rate is very good. And I would suggest, if you do like the character Ellie, and you see that she does a lot of damage pretty early on, it might be worth investing in those talents just to get the 15% or potentially the 30% as well. And finally, the runes. I don't have full runes for it at the moment. I'm one off, but I haven't bought any of these runes for Ellie. I've only collected them over the course of the past 6 months. And the rune skill, it doesn't particularly do very much. When Ellie's defense is increased, there's a 10% chance to gain an additional 30% of own defense for 3 rounds, so she becomes pretty tanky if you do have her. But the problem is, it's such a low chance. So when Ellie's defense is increased, there's a 10% chance to gain an additional 30%. Like, 10% is a very low chance, and even when it goes up to that 30% chance to gain additional 30%, it's just not worth it for me. It doesn't add anything. Ellie is primarily a damage dealer, and you're not going to put her in slots 1 or 2 to take big heavy hits. Potentially it can work well against Nawi, but you've got to get those defense increases, and that is very uncommon for this game. The majority just increase crit rate, increase attack rate on the teams that she's on. So if she was a protector, potentially this would be a broken skill, if there wasn't a percentage. So if it was, say for example, when Ellie's defense is increased, gain additional 30% of own defense for 30 rounds, that would make Ellie a broken character, because she just wouldn't go down. She wouldn't be able to be hit because of how high the defense stacks would get. So for me, the runes not important for Ellie as a character. I mean, I've got her at 15 stars, and I've got the the 3 there, but I don't intend to invest any of the gold coins into getting the last rune here. So we'll jump into some gameplay for Ellie. I'll just see how well she does, or how well she performs in her teams respectively. So if I jump into say 218 here, we'll find an Ethereals. Here you go, 219. We'll find Ethereals, and we'll see how well she does in the Ethereal setup. So we're just going to go for standard gear for Ethereals. If you don't have these, you can use the purple ones, just to get you through. I'm going to go with the healing because there's more stars and therefore more stats on the scales here for me. So we'll click on the Ethereals tab. We'll go Ellie, Katrina, Dorabella, Karnak. Now, some notable synergies here. You can get 3 Shadow Arcs on the Ethereals team, primarily by taking out your Dorabella, putting in Brutus, and putting in Anubia as well to get the Shadow Arc synergy. But just I wouldn't personally, because they do seem subpar. So I'm just going to pop Eudora down here. Keep Dora. In fact, we'll change Katrina and Dorabella. The reason I'm going to put Dorabella down here is because of the combo attack. Potentially we can take out the Atrops or the Lily and Leah before they get too strong. We'll just see how this one goes. So we've got Ellie up front. No other synergies besides the Ethereal synergy kicked in. And we will see how well she does. So it looks like it's taking some hits here. Fortunately, the damage spread is stopping the enemy team from effectively one-shotting Katrina. Plus the damage reduction gained by Ethereals is very useful in this particular matchup, primarily because of the Atrops here. As you can see, that would have done a lot of damage. But we get these shields and the health back. We get an additional shield proc and additional health because of the crits that we're doing. So what you want to focus on with the Ethereals is just primarily crits. So you can see we've done quite a large amount of damage. And then Ellie goes in, does a cool 2 million attack stat. We got a couple of stuns here on Lily and Leah. And I think that should seal the deal, really. So we'll get Karnak. No executions, unfortunately. But it is what it is. So we see Dorabella doing some big damage, and Ellie doing just under 1 million damage as well, which is nice. When you build her in a certain way, she will do the most damage on the team, which is why I like her as a unit. And I've always found that back 3, if you don't have sort of the setup that I've got, if you don't have Karnak, if you don't have Eudora, then Dorabella, Katrina and Ellie will always be go-to for that back row, and you can fill out the front row with whatever you want. I used to have Celine, and I used to have Atrops in the front row, and the 3 Ethereal synergy mates in the back as well. So we get the Atrops taken out, and we'll see how much damage Ellie is doing here. So it looks like, yeah, Ellie is doing the most damage out of the entire team. Really important to note. I don't think this is going to be a victory because I know we have just gone on to round 6, so potentially it will be a quick one, especially if Karnak does execute them as he has done here as well. So that's Ellie for you on the Ethereals team. We're going to try the Shadow Arcs team. Or against Shadow Arcs, but I'm not going to do it on that one because it is a very tough stage. I'm actually, in fact, going to jump on to 217 and we'll go for where have you gone? Here we go. So Shadow Arcs. I'm just going to change the setup here. So this is a setup that I used to use in very early game to get through the Shadow Arcs synergy stage. The reason that I've gone this way is because I have the 3 Shadow Arcs. So I have Ellie, I have Solomon, I have Persephone, all Shadow Arc synergy, as well as 4 strikers in this team as well. Little strikers build here, coming in quite handy. So we'll see how well this goes. And see if we do survive. So as you can see, strikers synergy kicking in. So we've got the 4 strikers increasing attack by 30% for each of the synergy mates. For each ally on the team. So hopefully that'll kick in over the next couple of rounds. Getting a couple of misses here, and that's the Shadow Arc synergy, as well as the high dodge rate for the Avengers synergy. We'll get a full heal from Persephone, and then taken all away just by 1 group attack, but fortunately getting the Blades of Chaos Holy Shield effect in place. Now we can see here Sal doing a reasonable amount of damage and Ellie following up on that. Unfortunately, Ellie getting taken out here by the opposing Ellie. It is what it is. Maybe potentially if we had the exclusive runes for her, the increase in defense might have saved her there, but we'll have to see. So Solomon down, so I think this one will be a loss, just primarily because we need the 5 survivors. So let's see how much damage Ellie will be doing over the course of the next couple of rounds. Yep, she finishes it off just nicely. Still a loss, but it is what it is. We just wait to see the damage that she can do. Now, I've gone for a bit of a different setup here. And primarily I wanted to include the majority of Ellie's synergies. I think this is the most optimal team to be able to do that. So we've got 3 strikers in Solomon, Atrops and Ellie. We have 3 ethereals in the form of Katrina and Karnak. And if I really wanted to go nuts, I'd take Karnak out and I put Anubia in. So as you can see, we've got 3 ethereals, 3 Shadow Arcs, and 3 strikers. So that's all of Ellie's abilities here. But I'm not going to do that because I'm not mad. I'm going to take Karnak out and put him back in. And we will just change up the relics here because we are using ethereals. We'll pop in sword, we'll pop in Excalibur, and we'll put scales in again. And just see how this one does, and see how Ellie performs, and see who does the most damage. Will it be Ellie or will it be Katrina? Put your bets in now. No peeking about the end result. And we'll just see about the survivability of the team as well. No silence, unfortunately. But it is what it is. We see enemies doing quite a large amount of damage. This Talanas doing a fair bit of damage to Katrina here. We'll get the attack increase. Unfortunately, that is a near death. But Solomon coming in clutch with the attack all allies. Yeah, and then we didn't even get to see Ellie attack, unfortunately, because it's a very, very weak team. So we'll try that one more time. Hopefully we won't get taken straight out. We'll swap Karnak around with Ellie. But it does seem the speeds are a little off. I've never seen Talanas that quick or move before Corolla before. The devs said that they would change the speeds to normal for these types of events. It does seem for the most part they have. But I've never seen Talanas move that quickly before. Hopefully with that silence there, we'll see a bit of a less of a wipeout, so to speak. So we'll get the attack increase from the striker synergy, and we'll also get the taunt as well as the heal. We'll get the shield. And see Katrina do some big damage here, taking out the Talanas, which is really good. Hopefully, unfortunately, Ellie did get that confused status applied, but we should see some big hits here from Ellie. So we'll see how that goes. Increase in attack, and she's also had another stack of the striker stack as well. So we'll see how this one goes. Yes, 2.35 million, not bad for this attack, and hopefully we'll see the victory here with thanks to Ellie, the striker synergy, the shadow arcs providing the dodge chance, and Emily keeps tagging us with the confused status. Fortunately, we're able to overcome that. The 50% chance did not proc for Ellie. So increasing attack for Atrops, and we're not dead. Fortunately, Solomon gets those big crits in. We see big crit from Karnak, and then Katrina should finish this off, because Ellie's only going to do a basic attack here, unfortunately, because she's out of time, which is something that's a bit underrated about the stun mechanic. It does put units out of time with the rest of their team, so if you've got a particular unit you do want buffed, if they do get stunned or if they get confused, it does put them out of time. Something to keep in mind. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, just let me know down below in the comments. If you want to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, would be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much.